Hey couples, it's Brian and Tracy. Welcome to the Marriage Channel. Today we're going to be talking about something called codependency when it comes to your parenting. So Tracy, why don't we start today with a definition of this word. Codependency, according to the Oxford Dictionary, is excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner.
We hear about this mostly in romantic relationships, marriage, dating relationships, where one person kind of gets so enmeshed with their partner that the partner's emotional stability, needs, struggles kind of becomes the other person's struggle just the same, almost like they're trying to take on the other person's issues onto themselves. And it creates this unhealthy enmeshment and reliance on that person that it begins to be that you feed on that dependence in the relationship, and you want your partner to be more dependent so you can become like the rescuer and the helper. And it's just a very unhealthy, one-sided, lopsided approach to a relationship. And so you might wonder, well, how does this apply to parenting? But what we're going to explore today is how even as parents, we can become codependent with our kids.
So parents, we want you to score your codependency on a scale of 1 to 5 in each of these three areas. First, control versus empowerment. Ask yourself the questions, are you over-involved in your kid's social life? Do you do everything for your kid? Because if you do, you might just be codependent.
And I think the question we have to ask ourselves as parents, especially when it comes to the social stuff, I know this was a struggle for me when my kids were started in junior high, maybe late elementary school, where they'd come home and they're starting to talk about so-and-so left me out at recess, or so-and-so's having a party and I'm not invited. And so as a parent, we can have that emotional reaction, which in some ways is natural and good, right? We want to protect our kids, but the codependency piece that you want to watch for is if you start to get over involved in that. You might call the parent and be like, why didn't you invite my kid to the party? You might talk to your kid kind of obsessively about it. Well, how do you feel about that? Or I can't believe they do that. And you kind of create more of an issue in the eyes of your kid because you're kind of projecting your own insecurity, your own times of feeling left out onto your child. And that's not going to be healthy for your kid, or that you feel like you have to do everything for your kid. The goal in parenting that we talk about here is that we want to empower our kids to go towards and move towards and develop towards independence. So if we're too controlling of our kids or too over-involved in even the social things, we're not giving our kids room to learn and develop how do they interact with their friends? What do they do when they're upset or feel left out?
Here's the second test, skewed priorities versus boundaries. Ask yourself the question, do you prioritize your kids' demands over your own needs or relationships?
And I think in this day and age, this is more so an issue because we have so scheduled our kids with sports, with different club activities, that we literally, our whole life, all of our evenings can be easily filled up by just things for our kids. So where that could become codependent is that you put every need of your kid above even your own schedule. Or let's say you have plans for the weekend to go out with some friends and have some social time as adults. And then your kid's like, well, I need a ride to this party, or I've got to go to this practice. And so you're just willing to drop everything in your own life for the sake of your kids and their needs to kind of meet their every whim. And again, not that as parents, we shouldn't be sacrificial and want our kids to be involved in things. But where it can become codependent is that you're kind of doing those things. You're letting your kid control everything. You're letting their desires and their wants to be the only thing driving you. That's the only thing you're focused on, that you're not ever doing anything for yourself or saying, you know what? No, not today. Or no, not tonight. We're not going to do that.
And the third area is fear versus strategic confidence. Ask yourself the question, do you avoid disciplining your kids for fear of rejection?
So this speaks to what I talked about a few minutes ago, that our job as parents is to train our kids towards independence, that they grow in the ability to take ownership over their own life as they grow and get older, so that by the time they're 18, they've developed the skills emotionally, socially, cognitively to go out on their own and don't need mom and dad all the time. And so this one is really important, that as parents, you're not afraid to train your kids, to give them consequences for bad choices, to be the parent. Your job isn't to be their friend, not until they've launched from your home. So that codependent line could be that you're so afraid of your kid getting mad at you that you let them get away with things, bad behavior, disrespect, because you'd rather them approve of you, like you as a parent, than for them to see you as an authority figure that's training them towards independence. So this is an important one, parents, for you to know where that line is, that your job is to train them, to not be afraid, to fear being a disciplinarian, but to recognize that it's a strategic act as parents to train our kids, which includes consequences sometimes, for them to be ready to take ownership of their own lives.
So parents, test your codependency in parenting in these three areas: control versus empowerment, skewed priorities versus boundaries, and fear versus strategic confidence.